All right, good morning, everyone. We've been learning Likuti Torah, a book written by the first speeches by the first Lubavitcher Rebbe, first Chabad Rebbe. His name was Rabbi Shneur Zalman. He wrote the book, the Tanya. And it explains the soul of Judaism and the soul of the commandments. And here we're talking about the Passover, and especially the commandment of eating matzah on Passover. And the Rebbe points out to us that eating matzah, like all the other commandments in the Torah, and there's 248, it's called positive commandments, that each one of them is designed to reveal a different aspect of godliness, of the oneness of God and the will of God and the wisdom of God in the world. Each one in its own separate, unique way. And revealing God in the world is such an unusual thing that it takes a while for it to do. It's not one person and does something and all of a sudden you feel a beam of light on your head, something like that. No, it's a very gradual process. It's like the difference between a person being sick and a person being healthy. Right? When a person is sick, he knows he's sick. But when he's healthy, he doesn't know that he's healthy. And what does it mean to be healthy? You only know you're healthy in relation to that I'm not sick. Well, what does it mean to be healthy? Right? If a person just feels naturally, that's what it means to feel God. You feel reality. You just feel the way things are supposed to be. The problem is if you've been sick for 5,700 years, that's a long time to be sick. And that's what the world is. Since Adam ate from the tree, and then we had a brief respite from that sickness when God gave the Torah until the Jews worshiped the golden calf. But the world has been sick and we're used to it. And we think that that's all there is to it, to the world. What does it mean to be sick? To not be functional. You can't function. You can't do what you're supposed to do in the world. You can't love things. You can't fear properly. You fear the wrong things. You fear imaginary things. You don't have a proper appreciation for the world. You can't. Your arms don't work the way they're supposed to be doing. You can't speak the way you're supposed to. That's the way we are in exile. That's called exile. Sick, sick. And eating matzah is to get out of exile. Eating matzah to get out. So eating matzah means a revelation of godliness that's happening. Now, these revelations are mostly in the upper worlds, which were also affected by the golden calf, and before that by the eating of the tree of knowledge. Mostly in the upper worlds, and when we do commandments, so we can't really appreciate it that much in this world because we've been used to being, they say, 5,000 years of sickness, so we can't understand godliness, we can't understand health very much. But nevertheless, when we do commandments, it makes at least the upper worlds healthy. It's like putting money in your bank account. Right? A person's a bum in the street, he's running around, gathering up food from garbage cans, and someone tells him, you just, good news, you just won the lottery. It's put in the bank, $50 million, but it's in the bank. Yeah, can I take it out? Something like that. You can't take it out. It's in the bank. When can I take it out? At a future date, undisclosed. And that's what we're in now. We're doing the Torah and the commandments as it's gathering up in the spiritual bank all these blessings and revelations of God, but a little bit creeps in. Nevertheless, the Rebbe here is explaining what's waiting for us, what's exactly happening when we do these commandments, what's being revealed in the upper worlds, and that a little bit of it comes trickling down into this world. So here we're taking the example of matzah. Well, the Rebbe says matzah is God's chachma, and the holidays, that's God's bina. Chachma and bina. Bina basically means we're made in God's image, so we can look a little bit of ourselves. Bina is when you understand something, and chachma is when you don't understand something. You just know that it exists. Like, take an example, life. You know you're alive. You know you're alive, right? You know life is good, but you don't understand what life is. No one understands what it is, where it comes from. That's life itself. But then there's certain things about life you can understand. beautiful music, a beautiful picture. You can do things for people. You can appreciate them. You have a family. You have this, children. You love your children. The children love you. Your wife. Your friends. Right? Accomplishments. There's things you can feel, challenges in life. You can feel aspects of life. That's what's called bina. So here we're talking about God. Bina is the little bit of understanding you can get from God, especially in heavens. It says after a person dies, he understands more. But chachma is pleasure in God, just to know how good God is. That's all. To know what it is. Did you have, like the person that the bum on the street? You just won $100 million. What's $100 million? Has no idea. You're rich. He knows he's rich. He doesn't understand what it means. That's chachma. Chachma means essence godliness. Okay, says the Rebbe, there's two types of matzah. When the Jews eat matzah, that they internalize this aspect of God's chachma. They internalize this aspect of God's, what do you call it, the source of life. If life is not understandable, much more so God. The essence, you know it's good, God is good, but you have no idea what it means. That's two aspects of matzah. One matzah is before midnight, and one matzah is after midnight. Matzah before midnight has to be guarded so that it didn't come to be chumetz. The matzah after midnight, you didn't have to guard it because God revealed himself, and therefore it couldn't rise up. Because chumetz, even though that revelation of God is not always visible, but it does manifest itself in certain ways. And one way it manifests itself is that when they left Egypt, that the bread couldn't rise. There was no egotism. There was no selfishness in the world. No destruction and no addictions and no the depression. There were none of these things. It was pure health. The world was healthy. That's what happened when God revealed himself and took the Jews out of Egypt. Therefore, the matzah did not rise up. But nowadays, the matzah does rise up. So we're sort of eating the matzah that was before midnight. In other words, the commandment. The matzah that was commanded to the Jews, that you have to guard the matzah so it doesn't come to be chometz. That's really the matzah that we're eating now. Is the matzah that was before midnight, before God revealed himself on the Jews, the matzah that's a commandment. If so, the Rebbe asks the question, then why do we say in the Haggadah that the matzah we're eating is because God revealed himself? That's the matzah after midnight. That's not the matzah we're eating now. We'll see the answer. I hope we'll get to it today. Okay, but the matzah that we're eating now is the commandment. That was what was before midnight. That's matzah you have to guard so that it doesn't become chometz, because there is chometz in the word. Chometz means in the world. That's egotism. Okay, that's why nowadays we have to eat maror. That's what is avor lo amarti ela b'shashish matzah maror. Nowadays we have to eat matzah and maror. What is maror? Maror is bitter. Now they bitter herbs. Now they eat horseradish. Something that's bitter. Really, the Mishnah says that the best bitter herbs are lettuce, because lettuce, if you keep it in the ground, as soon as it comes up, it's very sweet. Young lettuce leaves are very good tasting. But if you leave it there for too long, then it becomes very bitter. And that's more indicative of the bitterness that was in Egypt, because they started off, it was very good. Yosef brought his brothers down, and they were living in the best place in Egypt. And then gradually, all of a sudden, it started the servitude. Okay, but nowadays we have to eat more. Why do we have to eat more? Because you have to watch out for bad. We're eating matzah that's reminiscent of before midnight, before God revealed himself, when there was still a lot of egotism and selfishness, and the Jewish people had to watch out that they were commanded to eat matzah. That drew down this aspect of chachma, which will help them to be vessels for the revelation that's going to be after midnight. But we're eating them the matzah that's reminiscent of the matzah that was before midnight when there was still a evil impulse, and that's why we have to eat moror. Shall you day moror, that by means of eating bitter herbs as well, mariros, and that we're bitter because we're far away from God. Al Yudei said by means of this, it arouses the 13 attributes of mercy. And if you remember, we said before that Moses, that's why it says that the matzah we're eating is that God took us out. It says God and nothing else. Why does it have to say nothing else? Remember, we learned 2 days ago. Why does that have to say? Because when, for instance, when God promised Moses after the Jewish people sinned with the golden calf that he's going to forgive them, he's going to forgive all sins. So Moses said, 1 second, God, don't forgive all sins. Like, for instance, the non-Jews, when they try to kill us and exterminate us, don't forgive that. So God said, okay, I'll lift you up. I'll give you the 13 attributes of mercy. That'll, like it says, call Dodi Hine Zeba, the voice of my beloved is coming to wake us up. I look at it says in Midrash Rabbah. Okay, the Inyan is like this. It's written in the Gemara in Manachot, page 53. Yavu Zev Yakabel Zot Mizeh. Said, let this come and receive this from this. This Zot is feminine and Zeh is masculine. It says, let this one come and receive this from this. Who is it talking about? Let Moses come. That Moses, he prophesied all the time in Zeh. All the other prophets, they said, Ko Amar, like this, says God. And Moses said, Zeh Hadavar, this is what God said. Torah, this is referring to the Torah. Let Moses come and receive the Torah. Like it says in Torah, that's feminine. The Torah is called Novlot Chachma. It's called dripping down of God's wisdom from above. Okay, but in the future, Gilui Penimis Torah, there'll be the inside of the Torah. Penimis Torah, the inside of the Torah, which is above. And that's what it means in the Midrash Rabbah, that in the future, we will say 2 times Zeh. It's a prophecy of Isaiah. But nowadays the Torah is feminine. It receives from godliness. That's like Mother Earth, it receives. So Bo Zeh, let Zeh, which is Moses. 1 second. And receives Zot, which is the Torah, that's feminine. Mizeh from Hashem. It says, but in the future, the Torah is also going to be called Zeh. This, masculine. Hine Elokeinu Zeh, Zeh Hashem Kivino Lo. And like I said, it's a prophecy of Isaiah. Al Yidei, by means of that will be revealed the inside of Abba, the inside of Chachma. That's what we're beginning to reveal on when we eat matzah, and that's what God did reveal after we ate the matzah. That's the matzah that we're referring to in the Haggadah. Nevertheless, Gilui Zeh was drawn down by Hayom Lasotom. The revelation of God's essence, Zeh, was by means of all the 2,000 years that we've been in exile. Actually, it's 3,000 years since they worshipped the golden calf. But that's what it means. Now there has to be matzah and moror. You want to reveal the essence of God? Nowadays there has to be bitterness also. You have to do the commandments because nowadays we are in exile, just like it was before midnight back then. Nowadays we have to choose godliness or not choose godliness. We're in exile. We have what to choose from. That evil is as logical as choice as good. Like it says, God put in front of us life and death. Life and good, and death and bad. You should choose. That's what the world is now, and that's what it was before God revealed himself when they left Egypt. It says in Pri Etz Chaim, maror is the numerical value of death. What does it mean? The physical world is called death, and it's called bad. Why is the physical world called death and bad? Because the physical world is here and it goes away. Right? Everything in the physical world, it deteriorates. What do they call it? What do they call it? There's a word for it. Well, what is it called? It's called atrophy. Huh? Something, I think that's the right word. But spirituality is called life and good, like we said before. Okay, so let's go through this thing again. Before the Jewish people ate from the matzah, they were in exile in Egypt, terrible exile. And therefore God said, eat matzah, but you have to watch out that matzah, it doesn't come to chometz, because exile means that they were still egotistical, and ego is chometz. So therefore, the matzah that they ate before midnight was matzah that they ate only because God commanded them to, and they commanded them to also protect the matzah. It shouldn't become the chometz. But when God revealed himself at midnight, then there was no more egotism. And that's the way it continued until the Jews worshipped the golden calf. No more egotism. The matzah that we're eating now, of course, is after the Jews ate from the golden calf, and that is served the golden calf, and that is like the matzah that they ate before midnight, where they had to watch out for the Yetzer Hora. Midnight is when God revealed himself. Therefore, now the matzah that we eat is eaten with maror, and the matzah that they ate back then also was before midnight, before they left Egypt, before God revealed himself, also was with maror, because maror means death, and we have to combat death. We have to worry about making the wrong choices. Okay, and therefore there has to be bechinat, there has to be the level of there has to be the level of 1 minute. What happened? What I'm going to assume. What happened? Oh, maror. There has to be maror. We have to eat maror also because we're eating the matzah that was before midnight, the matzah that we're only eating because God commanded us. The revelation of God that made it impossible to rise up, that was taken away when the Jews worshiped the golden calf. So nowadays we have to eat it together with maror. Okay, one second. Okay. Nowadays we have to make the right choice. We have to choose life, because there's another option to do bad and to do sins as well. It's equally as appealing. But that's only relevant now, of a latid level, but in the future when Moshiach comes and death is gone from the world, there won't be any more death. Even the dead will rise up. The physical world will not conceal godliness anymore. Exactly the opposite. The physical world will express godliness. That's what it means, Macha Hashem Dima. That's what it means, that God will wipe off all tears from the eyes. Also, it's a sentence from Isaiah. Here's it. Asher Dima, he'll wipe away all the tears. Tears are the gematria of 120. Remember, we talked about that for 2 times. 120 is mar, bitter. Tzeruvim Elokim, that's the 120 different permutations of the word Elohim. Sheme'em nimshach, that from this is drawn down the concealment in the world. But it'll be like it says before, And Vahaya Hashem Lil Elokim, Hashem will be what's revealed. In other words, the world will be healthy, will feel godliness again. It'll be like it was before Adam ate from the tree, and even higher. It'll be like after God gave the Torah, before the Jews worshiped the golden calf. We'll feel who we really are. Like it says, God will take the sun out of its sheath. Therefore, then we won't have to eat maror. We'll do the night of Passover, but we won't have to eat maror anymore. That maror is, maybe we will eat maror, but not for the same purpose, only just to fulfill what it says in the Torah. But no, we won't have to eat maror in order to get rid of the bad. Because maror comes, the reason we only bought bitter herbs on Passover is only to combat the death in the world, and there won't be any more death. Death will be swallowed up. And also the matzah, which is in shimur matzah, that we have to watch out that it doesn't come to be chametz. That's only relevant nowadays, before God reveals himself. Like it was relevant back then before God revealed himself. But in the future will be like it was, Lo speak, it'll be the revelation of God like it was back then when they left Egypt at midnight. It was impossible for the matzah, for the dough to rise up. It'll be impossible that there'll be chometz. V'yesh gashmi klal, because of bittul, because the world will be surrendered to the Creator. No one nowadays, what it is nowadays, a person that's sick or a person that's crazy, a person that's crazy, he can hurt himself. People commit suicide. They jump out of buildings. They do all sorts of suicidal things, crazy things, right? That's in the future there won't be such a thing, right? In the future, it's not like nowadays. A person taking a needle or something and sticking it in your own eye. Who would do such a thing like that? 1 minute. Very good. 1 minute. Oh, why does it come? Only by you it comes up. Let's try it again. Oh. Wow, look at this. I'm trying to make my picture alone. There it goes. Okay, good. Okay, so what are we talking about here? The Rebbe is trying to tell us that Passover, Pesach, is freeing from Egypt, and it's preparing us for the ideal, healthy world that's going to come by means of Mashiach. When the Jewish people, Mashiach, is going to encourage all the Jews to do Torah and the commandments, and by means of that, we'll make the right choices. That's like eating maror on the night of Passover. We make the right choices. We realize that going against God is bitter. We make the right choices, and then there's going to be like it was back then when they left Egypt, that God revealed himself, and the dough could not rise up. There wasn't any chametz. It was impossible. And when the Jews worshipped the golden calf, then they wrecked everything back up again, and that's the state that we're in now. So we have to eat matzah, and we have to work on it, but that's an unnatural, unhealthy, the sick state that we're in now, and that we've been in for the last 3,300 years. When there was the temple, there was a little bit of relief from that, but not really. It says that only the time of Purim, which was before the temple, did the Jews really get the point of the Torah. They defied death. And what was the whole holiday of Purim? The Achashverosh said, I'm going to kill every Jew that says he's a Jew, and all the Jews said, I'm a Jew. They said, maybe you didn't understand. If you say you're a Jew, I'm, yes, going to kill you. Say you're a Jew, you'll get killed. Are you going to say you're a Jew? I am a Jew. I don't care about your threats. I don't fear anything except for God. That's Purim. And that negated death, at least for a little while. That's why they were so happy. But it came back again because the second temple was destroyed, and that's where we are now. Like it says, the reason of Mudmar the Torah. Okay, the rabbis say all the sacrifices are going to be gone except for the Thanksgiving offering. Why? Because all the sacrifices, they come from the Thanksgiving offering, because all the sacrifices, they come from Matzah. It's forbidden to bring chametz into the base of Mikdash, except for the chametz, which was in the Thanksgiving offering. Thanksgiving offering, you bought 40 loaves of bread, 10 different types. I'm sorry, four different types of bread. 10 loaves of 4 different types, 40 loaves of bread. And 10 of those loaves were chametz. And it's forbidden to bring chametz into the holy temple, but on the Thanksgiving offering, you could. And also the 2 loaves of bread for Shavuot, when God gave the Torah. Why? Because this is hinting at, and that in the future, because there's going to be such a big revelation, like it was back then when the Jews got out of Egypt, that chametz wasn't dangerous anymore. It couldn't raise up. Okay. Then we draw down this level of Zeh. Then will be the revelation of the essence of God, which is called that He surrounds the world, and etc., which is not the case. And the Kamei, everything is equal. Therefore, it's called Zeh. At the Shemayim, at the Oretz, Ani Malay, I am filled. So it says, then everybody's going to do tshuva. There'll be this tremendously high level of godliness, which is not the case in the future. Then, ein moel bechinas tshuva. You won't have to do any tshuva anymore. It says that's what it means. These are the days that I have no desire. It says that in the future, and there's not going to be any, it says everything is going to be set. All right, let's just go to one part I want to see over there. Okay, 1 minute. So it says, okay, so we have answered the question we asked. We're going to have another answer, and I'm going to explain what the answer is outside, because maybe we'll learn it inside. Okay, what was the question? What was the question? How do we begin this mimer? How do we begin? We began the mimer. Let's see, maybe we can go back to the page here. One minute. Did I do wrong? Yeah. No, I did wrong. I did it wrong. Here we go. Yeah. Okay, here's the question, right? Where's the question? Here. Excuse me, 1 minute. I got the wrong thing over here. Wrong page. I see. I got it. Okay, good. I'm 1 page off. All right. Here's the question we had, right? This is the mimer. It says 6 days you should eat matzah. No. This is wrong. What am I doing? I got. I'm sorry. All right, there we go. I was almost right. Yeah. Going back to the beginning. I guess we accomplished more than I thought. All right, here we go. Ready? It says, let's understand what it says in the Haggadah. That's the name. That's the title of this mimer we're learning. Let's understand what it says in the Haggadah. This matzah that we eat, because lo yispeak betatzavotenu. The matzah we're eating is because God revealed Himself to the Jews and He took them out of Egypt. Therefore, the matzah could not raise up. The dough could not raise up. Good. That's the question. What's the question? That's not the reason we eat matzah. We're eating matzah because God commanded it. We're eating the matzah, remembrance of the matzah the Jews ate before midnight, before God revealed Himself at midnight and took the Jews out, before God revealed Himself at midnight, and it was impossible for the dough to rise up. That's why we're eating matzah. We're eating matzah to remind us of the matzah the Jews ate before midnight, before God revealed Himself. Why do we say the matzah that we're eating is because of God revealed Himself? Right? This is the matzah we're eating is before God revealed Himself. So what was the answer He gave? The answer He gave was, the matzah that we're eating now is in order that it should be like it was back then, and God revealed Himself. The matzah that we're eating now, which we're eating together with maror, which is because we're now in exile and because the world is sick and so are we. And because we want to go against God, and therefore the matzah that we're eating is the matzah that they ate before midnight, before God revealed himself. Therefore, we're eating it together with maror to show that we have to watch out from death. We have to watch out from things that are against God. But why do we say that the matzah we're eating is like the matzah they ate afterwards? Because the matzah that we're eating now, that will bring to the revelation, the same revelation that they had back then, to reveal godliness. The work that we do now with matzah and maror, that humility and trying to connect to God as much as we can, and to avoid doing bad, that's the same as the matzah before midnight, is that will bring to what we say that we're eating matzah. We hope we're eating matzah that they ate after midnight, that couldn't rise up. God will reveal himself just like he did back then. Answer number one. Answer number two, let's see if I can get this. It's not easy to turn the pages over here because I get, 1 second. Answer number two, he says, Magid mi reishis achris. Let's see if we can get this here. Isn't this 1 minute? 1 minute, something's going on over here. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Good. We can also answer like this. The question is that we asked before about matzah that we eat now, is we're eating because of the matzah that they ate after midnight. The matzah couldn't rise up. Why? And because this Yesh Lomar is like it says, Magid me reshis achris, that we're saying the last thing first. Like it says, Hu sovev et eretz hachavila. It talks about in the beginning of the creation that there was one of the rivers that came out. There was 4 rivers that came out of the garden from Eden. That came out of Eden to water the ground. And one of the rivers, it says, it surrounds the land of Chavila. That's what it says in the Torah. But 1 second, the Torah says, but the land of Chavila had not been created yet. How can the river surround it? So it says that it says Elamagid mireshis achris. It's talking about the future now. In other words, from beginning, it's telling what's going to be. So it's the same thing over here. The main thing of eating matzah that we're eating now is the main matzah is like what's going to be in the future. That's the real reason that we're eating the matzah, is because of the matzah in the future. The first answer was the matzah that we eat now brings to what's going to be in the future. So we're talking about what's going to be by means of our eating matzah. What we're thinking about is to bring to the future. But here the second answer is that no, we're only talking about the matzah that we're eating, that's going to be eating in the future. That's what's going to be. How it's going to be, that's not interesting. That's not interested to us. What we're interested in is one thing. True matzah is the matzah that the Jewish people ate after midnight, after God revealed himself. Matzah that could not become chametz. And that's what we're talking about now, even though that it hasn't happened now. Nevertheless, the truth is that that's the way things are going to be. That the matzah, this is also like the beginning and the end. Perish reishis milamata lamayla. We can look at it from below to above, that we have to do the work. This is what's called reishis chachma, the fear of God, which that means the lirat Torah, the lower fear. And on this it says, if there's no fear, there won't be wisdom. This is the first type of matzah, which is before midnight. But from this is drawn down afterwards. Achri is the last type of matzah, which is the second type of matzah, which will be after God reveals himself, and it won't be able to be raised up. What does that mean? We said before, what do we care if the bread raises up or not? That's talking about us also. We won't have any false egotism. We won't have any false selfishness, etc. Like it says, it's known that the Yetzias Mitzrayim going out of Egypt was drawn down from a level of Yoivel, the 50th year. That's why we count 50 days between Passover and Shavuot, that gradually we reveal this. Shemisham nimshach hachirut, that's what freedom comes from. So therefore, on the day of Passover, that's what it means, Nigla Aleha Melech Malchim Lachim. That's what it means that was revealed to the Jews on the day they left Passover, the King of the Kings of Kings. That's what it means, Magid Reshis Achris, that God revealed the essence of himself right back then, and that was the main revelation that wanted to be revealed. What does it mean? Magid means it was drawn down. Magid, Mereshis, from the beginning, from the matzah that we ate before midnight, is drawn down. Magid, the end. Como nar dinor, like it says, it's not nothing. Anyway, a river is drawn out by means of the reshis, which that's the lower fear. That's the matzah that they ate before midnight, just like this river of fire. It says, and by means of that, that's the reshis, that the lower fear of God, being aware that there's something bigger than me, God. You come to the last, which is the upper fear. What does the upper fear mean? That you feel totally one, like we said before, a person feeling one with his his body. A person doesn't want to, put a nail into his own eye because he feels himself. That's me. That's what we'll feel with God. That's called the upper fear. Lower fear is like God is something separate from me, but he's bigger than me. That's the lower fear. That's the matzah they ate before midnight. They had to watch themselves so they didn't come to chametz. They ate the matzah only because it was a commandment. God was helping them. But the matzah that's going to be afterwards, Yira Elon, that's going to be the upper fear. That by means of this, it says if there's no wisdom, there's no fear. That's called the upper fear. That's the awareness, true awareness of God. Then it'll be as more difficult to go against. It'll be ridiculous to go against God. Will be like the same thing as a person cutting off his own hand. People want to do it. That represents the matzah, which is after midnight, after God revealed himself. So the point the Rebbe wants to say here is that the goal of Judaism is to make the world healthy. And the only way you can make the world healthy is by showing the world that reality, what we're looking at, is just a little tiny pinpoint of what real reality is. And that God wants his real reality, which is infinitely more precious and happy than what we have now in this world. He wants it to be revealed here in this world. And that's the whole idea of matzah. The whole idea of matzah is the Jews ate matzah and they went out of Egypt. Egypt means confinement, looking at the world, this pinpoint, myopic way of looking at the world. That's going out of Egypt. And God gave them the commandment of matzah to help them, to give them wisdom. But nevertheless, they had to eat maror because there was still egotism and selfishness and confusion and sickness everywhere. And the Jews had to watch out for it. That's the idea of maror, to understand that bad is bitter, but to feel it. But that matzah they ate after midnight, that they didn't have to eat matzah with maror with it. And that matzah could not come to chometz. There was no egotism, no false egotism. And that's what we really want to reveal in the world. And that's why we say on the night of Passover, the matzah that we're eating is because of the matzah that was after midnight. That's our goal, to reveal a true happy world, that there won't be any foolishness or destruction and self-destruction. Now let's do the Dvar Malchut.